Natalia's mother told her to never talk to strangers online, but we're sure glad she didn't listen. We are the Certified Nunas, your sisters in the love of Asian entertainment.
I am Amanda.
I'm Jessie.
Hi.
And Natalia is not here. Sadly.
Yes. Sadly, Natalia is not here. She's on her deathbed. Not really, but she's been sick for a while, and so it's just the three of us. We've created our own little subunit. I don't know. We don't have a name yet, though.
We'll have to come up with a name.
We decided since it's just the three of us that we'd kind of deep dive into a show that all three of us have watched fully that Natalia hasn't. So, she doesn't have to spoil herself. And that is the show 12 Nights, which is kind of special for us to be recording today because it is our 12th episode. And it's also, if you remember, and have been with us for a while, it's the show that we discussed in our very first episode.
We talked about the first episode in the first episode of our podcast?
Yeah.
Wow.
We're going to talk about all 12 episodes in our 12th episode.
Yeah.
We didn't pre-plan that. We could act like we did, but we didn't.
Yeah, we really didn't. We were just kind of like scrambling because we're like, what are we going to do? Natalia's not around and we don't want to do anything really like special if, she wants to join in. So here we are. It should be noted that we're going to spoil things for you. So if this is a show you don't want spoilers on, please just leave.
Yeah, we're going to go in depth and pretty much talk about everything. So if you want to hear us talk about 12 Nights and you haven't watched it, go ahead and listen.
I mean, it's a show that I could foresee still going back and watching, even if you know everything that's going on in it.
I don't feel like anything in it was surprising or shocking. Like, there was no, like, big, what?
No.
Like, moment. It was an overall will there, won't they kind of thing. But even, I remember saying in our first podcast about the first episode that you don't know if they're going to wind up, is it just that they have a relationship that lasts 12 nights, or at the end of the 12, it takes 12 nights to get together.
Yeah.
You don't know what the deal is, but it doesn't really matter because it's enjoyable. Like, the story is good and the journey is good. So I didn't really care. And then around the middle, I cared. And then by the end, I was like, okay, you're kind of bringing me back around. If it doesn't go my way, I think I'll still be okay. So
yeah. I think
there
for
was a
me,
few episodes in the middle. I was like, no way. If this is a bad ending, I'm going to be mad.
I think for me, what was surprising was how much I enjoyed it. And I think it could have gotten, like, what is surprising about the show was that it didn't do some things that I thought for sure it would. And not in terms of, like, big reveals or anything, but just, like, kind of in terms of other K-dramas and kind of not following the trend or what I guess people probably would have liked more. They kind of kept up with how they were kind of telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like it was very real in many ways. Like, beyond the initial concept of two people who happen to bump into each other over and over again over the course of 8 years. Other than that sort of
the huge fate
fate thing. The rest of it was all just very real. Like, it was very,
there was no magic or slow-mo or...
Yeah.
The one dance scene. That one scene
I guess that was the one exception.
But even that is kind of, like, reasonable because he's a dancer. So, like, her dancing with him seems odd, but it was magical and kind of, I don't know.
It was
nice.
kind of playing towards, like, we talked about this in the first episode, how it very, like, art school feel towards it. And so I think it was kind of drawing from that kind of feel.
And that's as far as it went. It didn't go further than that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it didn't go into way magical. It was just, that was kind of as far as it went. And then it stayed very realistic otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost felt like the kind of magical, like the real magical, like the kind of magical that you could actually see happening in your real life, where you're taking a walk and it just kind of turns into something more romantic than you thought it would be, or like that full moonlight kind of magic, not like actual, like, shack in the woods with a weird lady and some special like,
secret garden magic.
Yeah, exactly. It was like real life level magic.
I kind of really
So,
loved how it was structured too,
mhm.
since if you don't know it, the episodes were once a week, so full 12 episodes, and then it was structured in 3 different time periods, which I think could go really kind of askew in most K-dramas, but the way that they kind of handled it with having 4 episodes per time period, and then also having that added effect of having to wait every week for one episode, it was a way to kind of make the like us the viewer kind of feel the sense of longing that the characters were also kind of feeling. So like you would always feel like almost kind of unresolved, but in that like normal like everyday life unresolved, you not knowing what's going to happen in the future. And so I think that like pacing was really nice for this show.
It was a
It's as if they
really good
built it
slow
in.
burn. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a slow burn. Like it was such a slow burn and it was so good. But yet, like you're getting kisses in like the second or third episode and stuff, and you're like, what? And then nope, back to the slow. Like, but it was good slow. Like it was like savor it kind of slow, not like get there faster, let's go. Like
Yeah.
I mean, apparently some people were. I remember, I think Cheryl talking about online about seeing people complaining that it was taking too long, that it was going so slow, and why was it taking them so long to get together and stuff. And I just remember thinking, like, it's called 12 Nights. Like, what do you think it's going to be about?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
maybe people
either the
thought hook up the first night and be together for 12 nights.
yeah,
Yay.
Yeah.
it could have been, right? Like, we talked about that it was either going to be a 12-night total relationship, or it was going to be, it takes them 12 nights to get together, right? Like,
And it played both
it has to be
sides.
one or the other.
It wasn't just the first episode that it played both sides of that possibility, though.
Mm-hmm.
Really. The
Yeah.
entire time, you don't really know.
You don't really know. The whole time it's like, is this, I don't, okay.
I don't even think they knew. I don't even think the characters knew what was going on.
No, but that's also playing into like how they were staying really true to the characters in real life. It was real reactions, and like real
Yeah.
timing.
Not,
And I
yay,
think,
we're dating, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like,
It also was very kind of mindful, and like the female lead has a relationship, a very abusive relationship, and this is probably one of the first K-dramas that I've seen that hasn't made light of it, and actually kind of carried it in a way that I thought was very not only like natural, but also like it didn't try to rush her character into just being okay with everything. It like took the time it needed to, because it was something that wasn't going to be something
And it
that
took her a long time to
yeah,
get
but
out.
I mean, like that's like
it,
true to life.
absolutely. But like, I mean, the thing that he was there in the first segment, in the first chunk of 4 episodes, and you think that she got rid of him, basically. Like it's done and she got rid of him, and then like the next 4 is 2 years later or something, and no, she's engaged to this guy, and you're like, what? He's still around? Like, no, I thought you got rid of him, but she didn't. She, fell back into that, and it takes her that long to finally actually
and he
get
was
out of
never
it.
treated as the savior, which was
Mhm.
nice, because that's not real life. Like,
Yeah, and it wasn't like she didn't escape the abusive relationship because of the good relationship. It was more that the good man reminded her of who she was and who she could be, and that and just reminded her, gave her that strength that she needed to like walk away. And it wasn't walking away and to somebody else. It kind of was, but not in that way. Like it wasn't she wasn't just replacing one with the other. It felt like to me she was getting the strength from him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
To be herself again and to go out and be like, wait, this is not right. This relationship isn't working right. And then it got worse, like they do, right?
Yeah.
When she tries to break up with him and he gets so much worse, and you're just like, sigh. But it was nice, because it was nice that it wasn't over the top. Like the abusive boyfriend wasn't over the top abusive either. Like it wasn't
a lot of it was emotional.
It was a lot of emotional. There was a little bit of physical, but even that wasn't like a full on like assault scene where you're seeing like punches thrown and you know what I mean? It wasn't
Scenery
that
chewing.
kind of intensity, you know?
Yeah.
And then it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't made light of, and they didn't sort of laugh it off, make it less than what it was. It just was what it was. They didn't make it more than what it was or less than what it was. It was what it was, and what it was bad. It just wasn't black eyes, you know, but it was still very bad.
And even
Yeah.
when she wanted to walk away, romantically speaking, his manipulation, and she was so caring, it wasn't for her sake at that point. So, I mean, there was a lot of very realistic aspects of that entire relationship, even when she was way done with it romantically speaking. He didn't just disappear, yay, put a band-aid on it, it's done. They didn't, it was not a clean thing. It was messy and it was hard, and it really had nothing to do with her romantic life at all. It was her just trying to figure out how to slowly get out of that. And I think that's actually really hard to portray when that wasn't even the main, I would say that wasn't even the main plot line of the entire show, but they still did a really good job at it.
Yeah, and I also think that it was kind of really great to they didn't shy away that it was terrible, even if it would like really kind of be like an emotional reaction to the audience too, which I think like a lot of K-dramas kind of like hide it too, so like you don't see it. And that they were able to show that emotional manipulation and how it, even in the like slightest bit or quietest bit, it just builds up and then just like takes her down. And having the male lead being there to kind of be like the silent guide to get her out of that, and not in a I want to be with you, that's why I'm doing this, but in a this person, there's something going on and they need that like kind of push to get there.
And they never spoke of it. I mean, it's not as if she poured her heart out and let's talk about it and yada yada. No. And here's advice. No, it was nothing like that. It was very much he gave her space and didn't bug about it. And honestly, I think that was my favorite part of their relationship. They were mostly friends, honestly. I mean, yes, there were romantic parts. I'm not downplaying that. But as far as how they started throughout all of those years, it was a lot of just friendship, just person-to-person human relationship stuff. And I thought that was really nice.
It's kind of almost like they were soulmates, but not in like a romantic sense. Like they just had a connection and they were able to be there for each other, and kind of like the kind of central thing to kind of get them into the places that they needed to be.
I really liked, right from the first episode, they had a lot of stuff, intersections and stoplights and road crossings had a lot of symbolism, and they were like right through start to finish. That was like a recurring theme of the two of them being on the opposite sides of the road, or crossing each other's path and not realizing it, or crossing each other's path and one of them pretending that they didn't recognize the other, and things like that. Like there was a very strong symbolism throughout of this concept of the two of them never quite being at the same place at the same time. And I think that was a big theme of the relationship, right? Like when they first come together, he's single and he's into a place where he's going to pursue his dream of dancing now. Like he's tossing away the, career and going for the dance dream. And she's at a place where she's like giving up the photography dream, and she's in a relationship with this guy who is kind of like almost like pretend encouraging her on her photography dream. He's doing it, but it's all backhanded. Like, I can show you how to be better. Yeah. I can help you to be good.
I'm the one to do this for you, not you're doing this for yourself.
Behind the scenes, I have to pull the strings to get you these jobs and internships and stuff because you're not really good enough for it. But I'm trying to help you. And then, the male lead sort of, through following his dream, kind of helps her to pursue her dream, or to, find that fire again and that desire for her.
And a little bit of independence, that she wants independence.
Yeah.
And then, you have the little time jump of, I think it was 2 years. The first time jump was 2 years, I think, maybe 3. I can't remember. But it was like a little chunk of time had passed, and then, they cross each other's path again, and she's engaged to this guy, and she's completely given up photography. She works for a photography company, but she's not doing photography anymore. And he's a dancer, but has like quit his company or started a new company. That was a little, I wasn't.
Yeah, I think that the company was falling.
And then, so he was sort of in a place where he wasn't entirely sure if he could pursue his dream anymore. And she was, it was almost like they were going crossways. Like she went from no dream to, like, in the final section, having her dream again, and like photography and stuff. And he was like, yes, dream, dance. And then in that middle section, they were both kind of in that weird space of like, I'm not really sure how this is going to happen or where this is going to go. And then in the end segment, the last 4 episodes, he was in the like dream is, my dream is dead kind of phase, while she was sort of pushing off again and like had gone back to school or whatever and like doing something with her.
Yeah, she became kind of the stronger one. She became what he was in that first section.
And he kind of became what she was. Like, they didn't deal with it as heavy, like as strongly as they did with her. But I mean, he was in an abusive relationship too. Like, like she was manipulating him. So for people who, I don't know if you haven't watched it or whatever, like in the final 4 segment, there's another time jump, and at this point he's the one who's engaged to somebody else, and he seems like a husk of who he was in the beginning. Like in the beginning he just was optimism and fate and dream and drive, and now he's like a husk. Like he's just kind of like given up his dream, and you kind of see that she did this to him, not the lead, the fiance. Like she's been sucking the life out of him the way the female lead's fiance was sucking the life out of her earlier.
Yeah, it was a combination between that and how he got injured at a certain point, and then was like actually faced with the fact that he can't even just like try to pursue his dream. There's something very real that is like stopping him.
So question, in the end, which I'm not broaching on really the relationship part, but his injury. So that when they spoke of his injury during that last section, they talked about he needed surgery, but they were saying dancers quite often don't do the surgery because it's hard to make themselves do that because it limits them, all these things. So I thought at the end, at some point it was alluded to that though he was still a choreographer, he was dancing on some level.
Yeah, because he was performing.
So you think he got the surgery and everything ended up kind of okay?
I don't know. I wonder if he got the surgery and did the work, like did the physio, did the work to get to a place where he could do it, like, or maybe his dancing style changed to accommodate.
Yeah, it was just puzzling,
Yeah, like they didn't really cover exactly what he did, but maybe that's the point, is that it doesn't really matter whether it's that he's dancing with the pain or he had the surgery and it allowed him to keep dancing, but the point is that he kept going. He tried.
And that he was happy. He was obviously not miserable in dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was clearly, whatever it was he was doing was working for him.
I thought it was interesting because they did make it sound like it was going to be physically impossible for him to dance one way or another. Even if you get the surgery, you probably won't be able to dance. Like, that's the way they made it sound. And so it was very interesting that in the end it's like, oh, he's dancing. How did he do that?
I kind of feel that it was more of it would take him out for too long. And at this point, they're probably in their 30s or like just turning 30 at this. And then like he was like kind of more ballet centered. I would like more of like kind of classical dance. And I think that's what they were kind of alluding to, is that like he'd be out for too long and this was his kind of only chance to keep up with stuff.
And then maybe you kind of lose your training.
Yeah, and it also might be that, like, the way that he was dancing, the way that he was, like, affected the injury more than another type of dance. That I don't know, because I don't...
Yeah.
like, couple dance lessons.
I was just puzzled, because I was like, oh, that's good he's dancing, but how did he do that?
Yeah. They could have used a little bit more clarity, I think, in that. I also kind of wondered if part of it wasn't that she was already, like, the fiance was already nagging at him and picking at him and telling him his career was pretty much over anyway, you know, because she didn't even really know how bad his injury was until she went to his doctor behind his back and got his medical records. What was that? Like,
Sketchy.
okay.
Sketchy.
Not okay. But yeah, like, she didn't even really know how much pain he was in and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of occurs to me that, like, she was driving him to quit dancing and move into choreo, right? Like, that was clearly because you find out that she's been hiding from him, that there's like a choreographer or director who's been requesting that he comes and dances for him, and she's been hiding that from him and, like, keeping it from him. Sigh. I was not impressed with her at all. I mean, I wasn't impressed with her to begin with, but like, you have the little in that final segment, there was the little sort of, not exactly meet cute, but like the two female leads, the fiance and the female lead, meet up a couple of times, and they actually kind of become friends. Like, they're drinking buddies one night and get drunk together and everything, and you're kind of thinking, okay, like, she's not that bad, she's actually pretty nice, and I don't know, maybe, like, this is where this is going to go. They're going to become friends, and then they're, you know, and then she starts pulling all this stuff, and you're like, oh, she is not nice, she is not nice at all, like, this isn't good. This isn't a good person.
Yeah, I kind of think they were trying to kind of make you see, like, different types of abuse, because I think if we're kind of like to look at it and, like, from the outside, comparing the abusive boyfriend and the abusive girlfriend, she is not actually that terrible. She does terrible things, and they're not justified in any way, but, like, they do kind of hint towards the things that are making her do that in a way. Like, she has pressure from her family. Her dad is really kind of pressuring the fiance to be in a position where he's not, you know, dancing, and he's, like, you know, got a stable job and working for the company or whatever. And then she also has her own kind of insecurities that are really starting to, like, play up. So I think that's what they were trying to do with that even though she was manipulative, it was also showing that her kind of demons were affecting her and creating this issue.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that we didn't get any background on the boyfriend that was around for so long. But it's also interesting that we get a background on a female character that wasn't in that many episodes, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus the boyfriend who is around for quite some time. We really have no clue why he's such an awful person. He just is.
He just is.
But that's good. Yay for a female character actually having a backstory and, like, purpose and stuff, because when does that ever happen?
One of the other things that I quite liked about this was that there was, like, all these side characters and side stories, and there were different ones in each segment. There were characters in the first segment that you never saw again.
Yeah.
Afterwards, which is very realistic, right? People come into your life and go out of your life, and you don't necessarily have this weird fate thing where it keeps bringing you back into the lives of these random people, you know, like people you stayed at a hotel with for 3 days, and you're never going to see them again. You just saw them, you know, or friends you made on the cruise or whatever, right? Like, these characters, like the guy who, I kept wishing that the guy who went off to the army in the first segment would show up again at some point, just
like working at a store.
I wanted to see him too.
He was a little cutie, but like, I want to know what happened with him. Like, what's his story? Like, not even necessarily that, like, he and the girl got together or anything like that. I just kind of want to know. You built up these characters and this story, and then I don't get to know what happened. But that's like real life, right? There's people that you just don't know what happens in their lives.
So what's really cool about kind of the time stuff in this show is that it really represented how much, like, can go on during time, but also, like, a period of time where, like, you know, you can get lost and not communicate with people for so long, and especially when you're older, it can be years before you are like, oh, we haven't seen each other in years, and that's, like, a real true thing. But then, you know, they're also people that you never see again.
What did you guys think of the subplot or whatever of the innkeeper? I guess the guest house itself and the guest house owner, and then everything that surrounded him.
I really liked it. I liked his story. I loved the way the relationship with the kid like played out, and how it was kind of neat. Like, you know, you start with this kid showing up at the door and saying, "I think you're my dad," and guy going, "What?" Like, and it ends up with them. They're a happy family. Like, mom's back in the life now, and they're apparently dating, maybe living together, mom and dad, and like the son actually has started to forgive his mom, and you know, like, it was a really pretty arc. It was a really nice, gave you good closure on that story arc. Like, that was really nice, because our main leads were a little open-ended, so it was nice to have at least one story that was complete.
I was surprised that they made it that complete, really. Because they're being so realistic with stuff. I was like, oh, they're making this really cute. That's really surprising.
But I think that is realistic too. Some stories do have happy endings. Some stories are, you know what I mean?
Well, and the happy ending is kind of surprising in that sense, because the mom was gone for so long.
Yeah.
And kind of an awful person on some level, like as far as not really caring about anybody else. And so the fact that she did, you could tell there was a slow development of her character once she finally came into the picture. And it wasn't a simple, oh, I understand now, other people matter. No, it was like very slow. And then the fact, I guess, that she finally figured it out and they did have a happy ending, it's like, that's kind of a miracle. Like, that is kind of shocking.
Yeah, I loved how it was like the slow growth of this character, that if we actually like pulled out like how much she was actually there, it's like not even like a fraction. It's like she really was only a tiny bit, because most of the time they were just talking about her. You never really saw her except for you know, a couple minutes each episode. But like, to be able to take that character and like show her growth, and then like also not rush that growth, and see, and like, because even at the end where it's this like, happy ending, you can tell that there's growth to be had. It's happy ending, but there's still more to the story, and that was kind of really neat to see, at like, just as this random minor character that you would go for episodes not even seeing.
And I loved the like the wise photographer.
I loved her too.
Like, was giving them advice. It was the second segment that had the other photographer, the third photographer, who knew this old lady, and who our lead was there to like get her to re-sign with the company. And again, she was in that segment and then gone. We never saw her again after. She wasn't in the first segment. She was only in that second segment, and she was important to the second segment. And we got her whole story and like all this backstory on her career and her dreams. And there was a lot unpacked in 4 episodes for this one, you know, just one character who then we never saw again. Like, they did a really good job of all these minor characters were complete characters. None of them were throwaways or partially done. You could tell that the writer knew her characters, knew what their backstory was. You could tell there were details that we aren't finding out about, but the writer knew.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was very well written.
But I did love that photography shop lady. Like, she was kind of like the sage advice, but not heavy-handed, very nice. But like, I don't know. I every time she had something to say, it was worth the viewer taking it to heart too.
Yeah.
But she wasn't knocking you over the head with it, and it wasn't something like, oh, there she goes again. Like, it wasn't preachy, it wasn't overdrawn. It was always very quiet advice that was like, oh, that's something to think about.
And I really loved that when she would come on, you would just feel instantly calmed and happy. Like, you really wanted to be with her. And she was almost that lady that just you could just have a cup of tea with, and just your problems kind of just disappear, and you could talk about nothing, and it would be a really great conversation.
She was like Bob Ross or something.
Yeah. Just calming and relaxing, and
And you would really love to hear her whole story.
Really sad, and like in the beginning of the third segment, and you see that they're like moving stuff out of her shop moving somebody new into the shop, and you're like, oh, the old lady is dead. Oh no! And then she shows up and she's like, oh, look what they're doing with the shop. And you're like, oh,
thank you.
She's just traveling.
shocking part of the show.
That's the big spoiler, folks. The old lady does not die. Goes to Africa to take pictures. Good for you, old lady. Good job.
Should have left us a memo.
It was a little sad, though, even like when she came in and she was like looking around the place, and just they didn't focus on it or make a big deal about it, but there was one point where she was kind of standing and she was next to that sort of frame on the wall where the lead's pictures had been before, and it was blank now, and it was like, oh, that's sad. But it kind of was nice in a way, like it almost felt like a bit of a sort of symbolic of where his character was at that point too. Like he was kind of blank and empty at that point too. Like he wasn't progressing. Before she'd had pictures of his progression year after year, and now he's not progressing anymore, you know? And that was kind of sad.
It's kind of almost like when you go home after not being there for a really long time and your parents have like done different things, or like you go home for that last time and you know you're moving, and so you're kind of like everything's out of the place and you just kind of like sit back and like see the memories of like what was there, even if it's like some small random piece of furniture, you have a like a memory tied to it. And that was a really nice scene to kind of show that.
It was neat too to see her have that connection with the artsy mom who was taking over the shop and turning it into her art studio or whatever. Mm-hmm. And like that they had a little scene together where they were connecting and talking about, you know, history and husbands and whatever. And it was just kind of, it was a nice way to connect her into that story, and kind of almost felt like a little bit of like a passing of the baton. Like, okay, like I was a mainstay in this community and now you get to be this place and you get to have your own memories and start your own things and, you know, not be me, but like be you in this space, you know. Mm-hmm. But I liked it. I liked that. I don't know.
She could even tell that the mom had growth to do too. And so she even kind of encouraged her in that. She could tell that she was lacking in her ability to have relationships with other people. And so she called that out very kindly, essentially, and encouraged her to keep on trying and stuff, and that it was worth it.
Yeah.
She was just very insightful, but not in a like, oh, it's because they wrote her that way. No, I mean, you could actually imagine someone would say the exact things that she said. So let's talk about the open ending.
I liked it.
I do. I mean, okay, ultimately, would I like it to be a little bit, I would have liked it to be 30 seconds longer. I would have liked, so like basically the open ending is they walk away from each other. This is it, we're done. We're not waiting for each other anymore. We're going about our lives. And then there's one last time jump, right? And you see that they both have careers and they're happy and they're doing all this stuff, but they're both back in Seoul. And they happen to be at this intersection and they see each other across the intersection and start walking towards each other with smiles on their face. Is it the smile of, wow, you're back in my life and now we're finally at the right time, at the right place? Or is it just the smiles of two friendly people who have friendly, you know, memories now because they fixed the things that were wrong and are able to smile at each other? I don't know. Do they wind up together? Do they not? It's a little open-ended. I would have liked it to be 30 seconds longer and had it end with the two of them standing right in the middle of the street together, smiling at each other and do that thing they do where like all the people are walking by fast, but they're in like the slow motion where not a kiss, just the two of them still just staring at each other, smiling, but like actually together, not just walking towards each other.
Intention happening.
Yeah, like just something. Like I just would have liked that extra 20 or 30 seconds.
I found it so refreshing that like even when they're coming together, you could instantly see that they were in a better spot, and that was just like so final for me that I was like, okay, even if they don't stay together or they're not together, that like they have both actually come to a point where they're actually for themselves really comfortable, and they seemed super comfortable with being around each other. And I just thought that was a really great moment, like even though it's like open ending, but just like seeing what they did immediately when they realized it was the two of them,
other.
it was just like really great. I was just like, okay, I don't need anything else because it was just such a nice thing.
I was like, oh, they're gonna go have a cup of tea. Like, there's no way they're not gonna go have a cup of tea. They're gonna go have tea.
Like, they're gonna go have noodles or something, right? Like, they're clearly
not in the ramen sense.
No, they have eaten noodles together on a couple of occasions. So, they're going to go do, have a bite to eat or whatever. They're obviously going to get together and catch up. They like the looks on their face were, I'm so happy to see you. And not necessarily from a love perspective, but just there is that person that is very important to my story and to my history. And I see them and I'm in a good place and I can smile at them and they're smiling back at me, which tells me they're in a good place too. Like, it was just like, yeah, okay, good. It's still open-ended, but it's like a good ending, open-ended.
Yeah, I think it's like because it was like the closure of their personal stories. I think that's why I kind of really connected with it. Almost that the romance was going to be taking second place. It's just like that knowledge of how they are together. And I think also like it kind of did play with like the fate aspect that's been running through the entire show, that like it's at that point they were like, we know that like we're not gonna not be around each other, so we're gonna let this time be this moment that we're like passing each other, but that's not the end of our story.
Yeah, it very much felt that way.
I also thought it was very well earned, and by that I don't mean all the time jumps and all the crud that they went through on a personal level. More like their relationship, the huge, I don't remember how many episodes, I guess it was maybe just that last episode, I can't quite remember. They pretty much started to obviously close down their relationship with each other. And once they ended up kind of in the same place at the same moment, through various kind of machinations, but it was intentional on at least one of their parts. And they both kind of decided this will kind of be our last date, but it wasn't even a date. It was like, we're going to talk this out. We're going to have closure, and we're going to go on with our lives in separate directions. And that was really amazing, because like, who actually does that in real life? But it wasn't in a, oh, this is so fictitious. It was a, wow, that was really brave and cool of them to do. That's pretty much how everyone wants to end a relationship. Like, they did a really good job.
You want it to be ended. And I think that was the thing, right? The first segment, the first 4-episode segment, ended with the two of them saying, we'll come back a year from now and we'll go to the beach together and we'll come back in a year. We'll have our lives sorted out and be all, the way that young people think that they can get their whole lives
in a year. We'll be successful in our careers. Oh yeah.
We'll be successful and we'll have our lives figured out and yay. And then, I mean, you find out that she did come back a year later and he didn't, because he had a work thing. He had an opportunity with dance and it took a priority and he didn't show up, which you find out broke her a little bit. And that's part of the reason why she wound up back with abusive fiance. And then when they end the second section of 4 episodes, again, they end it with okay, we're together. We have to both go, I have to go back to New York for school or whatever, and you have to go here, but like, we're together now and we'll come back together and we'll be together. And you find out long distance relationship did not work. Who knew? And but every time that they ended, it was like, I'll see you again. We'll see each other again. We're coming back together. And then that last segment, it was, no, we're not going to keep doing this. We're done now. We're not going to keep saying, and then if we see each other again someday, no, we're just done. It's just over, and I liked that. Like, I like that she was mature enough to say, even though I have feelings for you, I have to be done now. It has to be over.
And so that's why the open ending at the end that actually had at least some hope, even of just friendship in it, and them looking very happy to see each other. It was very nice and well earned, because they weren't going to just ignore the heck out of each other. They weren't going to try to go separate ways. They were obviously not just going to be like, hi in passing. You could tell that they were actually going to have a conversation. It was going to be.
Oh yeah, it was very clear. Like, we saw a review where somebody said the end was like cheese in the trap, that they gave us a cheese in the trap ending. I was like, no. I mean, other than the fact that it took place in an intersection, this was not cheese in the trap at all. Like, I think in like episode maybe 10 or 11, I was worried. I was worried that that's the kind of ending that we were going to wind up with, was the two of them walking past each other in the intersection and pretending they didn't see each other, or not seeing each other, or having such a bad blood relationship that, we can't even be friends. And by the end of episode 11, I was seeing that light. I was like, no, it's not going to be that ending. It's not going to be the bad ending. And I think it was something different. It wasn't cheese in the trap, because cheese in the trap wasn't open-ended. It was final. Like I said, would I have liked a little longer? Yeah. My heart would like that extra moment, but I really appreciate that they didn't overdo it. They didn't K-drama it up. It wasn't them running into each other's arms and him swinging her around and a big kiss, like
swelling music.
Yeah, like, it's just okay, and here we move into the next chapter of our lives. Like, it was very book-like in that sense, like chapters, which was kind of neat, since there was the two side characters who were writers, and all that about books and poetry and everything. So that was neat.
I was reminded of something that we talked about in the first podcast when we first covered this. We talked about the outsider traveler theme, because that's kind of how it all started. Since right. She was from New York and he was from Japan, though they're of Korean lineage, they weren't natively Korean. Or I guess she maybe was, but anyway.
Yeah, but she had been
in New York for quite some time.
Yeah.
And he was born in Japan. We knew that. At least for the first handful of episodes, there was definitely an outsider too, or maybe the whole thing. So I was going to bring up that theme. Like, did you guys feel like that came up a lot? And then it's interesting that they both ended up in Korea in the end. So
yeah, it kind of felt like almost like that was a bit of the theme too, was that idea of like coming home and like finding yourself and finding your roots. But like, yeah, they both wind up in Seoul. They both wind up in South Korea. And I don't know, it's not clear whether she's there like for life or she's there just for now has a gallery doing a show or something. But it was, I don't know, I liked that. I liked that idea that like it felt like they got more and more comfortable with Seoul in each segment. And they, by the last one, she's like, oh, things are changing. And like, this was like this. And this was, and he talks about going to familiar places to think about her or to calm himself down and stuff. Like, they both, by the third segment, they have familiar places. It's not touristy anymore. Now it's that place that I go when I need this thing, or I need to feel like this, I go to this place, because they have those places then. And
then she brought her mom at some juncture. So that was a big part of that theme too, I guess, as far as her mom's past and kind of visiting all of that and how that fit in with the lead character a little bit.
I think it was also they kind of almost like a transition from wanderers because they were travelers, and then just wandering through life and like through these stories and like kind of figuring out your path in life, like literally like through like all these obstacles. So it like kind of transitioned into that, and then it kind of played with the home, especially with the mom and the grandmother's relationship, how it was very strained. And also that like her mom wasn't in Seoul as well, right? In the very beginning,
right.
She was.
I think she was in New York.
They were also kind of very different in terms of kind of the culture of being with your family. That, that they were very separate from that. And then towards the end, that it started to fall back. The grandmother got sick, and then that's when the mother finally like resolved whatever issue she had with the mother, and then they got together, and the family was starting to kind of come together back in Seoul.
I thought that was neat that our lead had that conversation with her aunt at one point on the phone, and she was like, you're pushing, like maybe she didn't run away from you, maybe you guys pushed her away, because I could see she's like that with me, and she pushes me, And I can see where she got that from now. She got that from you guys. And you guys pushed her away the way she pushes me away, and you need to stop or you're going to break it. I thought that was good. It's not every girl who can see her relationship with her mother that clearly, and still have a good relationship with her mother, even though she sees what the buttons are. And
So I thought that was a neat theme, though, as far as coming back home in a way.
Yeah.
there was a lot. Like, there was just a lot in this drama. Like, a lot of themes, a lot of symbolism, a lot of story, a lot of characters.
For being a rather slow-paced show.
And short. I mean, it's only 12 episodes.
They packed in a lot of characters. They packed in a lot of themes. And
I mean, the house, the guest house itself was a character in this show, you know?
So was the photography studio.
Yeah, like they're like even like inanimate objects became characters and very essential to the story.
Yeah.
Like his pictures, like those were a huge part of the story.
Just locations, right? There was just
the mountain that they kept going up.
The mountain, yeah. Like it was just so much, and it was so well done. I was actually surprised in a sense. Like, there was a pause in it because he had to have surgery. The actor had to have surgery, like after the third week or something. They had paused it
early
for a few weeks. And I was kind of surprised because the feel of the drama overall, it feels like something that was pre-produced. A lot of those K-dramas that are being filmed as they go, and you can see that point where, here's that point in the show where the ratings got too good and they said, okay, no, now we need to fix this or change this, or we need to like add 6 more episodes, or we need to like add a romance, or, you know, like sometimes you can feel that shift that's going with how people are perceiving it or talking about it or what the ratings are. And this didn't have that at all. There was no point where it felt like they changed the story to go with, you know, it's not rating very well, we need to ramp this up, or there just nothing. Like, there was no point where it felt like, people are complaining that it's taking too long for them to get together, so we better get them together faster. Like, nope, they just kept on moving at the pace and telling the story they were telling.
It's kind of also like interesting because the owner of the guest house was also in Where Stars Land, and granted he didn't have like the hugest part, like so there was a time where he was juggling pretty good sized parts, and that never felt like it affected it because he really was in 12 Nights in it a ton.
A lot.
And as far as I understand, he wasn't like the main character in Where Stars Land, but he would pop up a fair amount, really.
He was in a lot. Yeah, so good for him. Next, Kim Won-hee.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe all of our spoiler episodes will just be things that he's in. I looked up the screenwriter on my drama list just out of curiosity. Mm-hmm. They've only written, as far as what's listed, they've only had 2 other shows, one in 2012 and one in 2014.
What were they?
Goodbye, Dear Wife, and My Secret Hotel.
I don't know either of those.
Oh, My Secret Hotel's on my...
Man, we need Natalia. She probably watched them.
Yeah, probably. Oh, okay. My Secret Hotel. It's got Nam Goong-min and Yoon Ah, a woman who runs the wedding planning division of the country's top 1% wedding destination hotel. Ooh la la.
It's interesting they didn't stick it on my list, but I've definitely seen that poster before somewhere.
That's interesting. Actually, I have it on my not interested list. I had it on my plan to watch and put it on my not interested list at some point. But I'm putting it back on my plan to watch. Yeah, because, wow, I'm impressed with the writer. So I'd like to... I don't imagine that this is like just looking at the topic.
Yeah, the tags on it.
You know,
murder, divorce, misunderstanding.
Probably. Like reason why I put it on my not interested list.
But the genre is mystery, romance, and drama. It's like,
I mean, that sounds like a Jessie show.
That does sound like a Jessie show.
Ooh, actually, Goodbye, Dear Wife. I can ever find that. That's a sports drama. He was a famous fighter with good looks.
Ooh.
He married a woman who was about to become a nun. Okay. But he's sick of married life, and he says goodbye to his wife, hoping to experience love with his first love.
The appeal just kind of went, meow.
But I mean, it says it's tagged with comedy, romance, and tragedy.
I love the tags on my list.
Oh, okay. So,
But I really did enjoy 12 Nights. I kind of got bad about keeping up with it at some point, and then I just kind of binged the end. But I really did enjoy it.
I struggled with keeping up with it, like over the holidays and stuff, because I mean, it ended right at New Year's basically, and that last section was hard. It was harder than the first two sections were. Like they were a much easier watch, and that last section was hard to watch at times. Not in a bad way, not like, oh, this is getting violent or ugly or anything. Just it was intense, and the feelings that they were going through and everything, it wasn't as light as the first two segments felt. And I know for the Christmas holidays, like I just struggle anyway, so I was like,
yeah.
I think I'll leave that for now. So I waited until the kids were back at school, and it all got done. But I mean, once I was watching it again, I was enjoying it.
I do remember when you were kind of angry at aspects of it. It was kind of funny because you were like, if such and such happens, I'm gonna throw things. If he winds up with that fiance, I'm gonna throw.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It would have been so devastating.
I was definitely at a point where I was like, if he winds up trapped, married to that girl, I am going to smash something, because like he is not a good person, and I'm not having that. Because that would have been the tragic ending, right? Like that would have been the sad. He ends in a loveless marriage, that he's kind of trapped into by this horrible woman.
And there was enough realism going on that you really didn't know how it was going to end up. And not from their romantic relationship sense, but in a, wow, you really don't know where their lives could end up at the end. Like they could have both been miserable, and that could have fit with the way the story flowed. It could have fit. It could have just been this melodramatic ending, and it would have actually fit with the rest of the story.
It's very true.
So the fact that it ended on a pretty hopeful note, even if they don't get together or whatever, like it was like, oh, this is actually really pleasant. That's really nice.
Yeah, the fact that they ended up both in a good place, both happy with the lives that they had, and then maybe now we're both in the right place and we're both in the same place, and maybe now we're both ready for an actual real relationship, not just a romantic fantasy or a unhealthy, using you to get myself in a better place. Like maybe we're actually both the kind of people who can now, we're both in a place where we can start an actual relationship with somebody and have it be not one-sided.
Also, the way they would talk about art together between the photography and the dancing, I always thought like they could collaborate on something really cool at the end. So to me, I always thought, because when it came to those types of discussions, they were very much like good soulmate friends. And so I always thought they could really collaborate on some really cool show or something, and that would be a really neat way their characters could mature and develop together, and it wouldn't even have to necessarily be romantic, but they could still like have that connection. I don't know. I just thought there was a couple of avenues where they could be very happy together, just depending
even
on
if they're not together.
And it takes a lot for me to say that, because usually I'm fighting for romance. I mean, I still wanted them to be together, but I kept seeing avenues. I was like, they're really good friends, which I really, really enjoyed. I think that's one of my huge tropes. It's like, I like enemies to lovers, but what I like more is like friends to lovers, or just friends throughout. Even when they're still lovers, like they're still having a huge friendship together. I think that's a big thing for me.
Well, I liked that in the second segment, that like there was a lot of awkwardness between them at first, because they're, both kind of pretending like they don't really know who each other is, like in front of the friends and the other people and stuff. And then they go for that camping trip and have the drinking game and stuff. And they're having like a whole conversation that nobody else is following because they're just talking about like,
except for the
I like
photographer,
summer.
she was picking it up.
Oh yeah, the photographer's like, what is going on with you two? Like, get a room already. Like and the guy friends are like, what?
Let's
Like,
drink more.
whatever. But I liked that it was awkward and it was weird, and she's mad because she's looking at him going, you never showed up. You didn't come. You didn't show up, and it hurt me, right? But they got over it, and
yeah, they talked it out.
They talked it out, and then they were, well, not quite. She's still in a relationship with somebody, and she's dating somebody, and like engaged, and they're not together, but they were friends again. It was like they talked it out. He explained what had happened. They worked, she said, I'm mad at you. And he said, I get that. You should be mad at me. And then they were cool. And then they were friendly again, and they were laughing and kind of like able to have healthiness again to some extent.
For the record, I did want her to overtly tell him at some point that she was still in a relationship, though. I felt bad from his perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a little too ambiguous, I thought, for him. Like, I felt bad for his character.
Yeah, I can also see she was kind of holding it back because she actually, like, thought he would think less of her. Like, it was more of like if I tell him, it's not even like that it's going to hurt him. It's more of like he's going to just be disappointed in me, and she didn't really want that.
Well, I think she was disappointed in herself, too.
Like, also that.
See him again really reminded her of who she had been, 2 years, 3 years earlier, and those dreams and that desire that she had to move forward and everything that she had given up at that point. And I think, and that horrible fiance was like the symbol of all those broken dreams and, crappiness that was in her life. Like it all, not that you can put it all on him, like she went back to him or whatever too, but like I wonder if that was part of it. Like she just didn't want to say it out loud, then it was real, and then she had to face it too. I mean, she did eventually. Like she told him she was with a guy. And
what I really enjoyed about this show was the fact, because I'm a really big character person, like I don't like when shows betray their characters, even if the characters are themselves crappy. I still want them to be what the writer had set up, and I don't want them to be used as a device to move the plot along. Like I like it really, like it kind of bums me out that like you build up a character just to do that, just kind of play with them. And what I really liked about this show was that the writer actually took time with even the smallest characters to really develop them, and then not push them into a place where you're like, that would have never happened if like you took this character and they were a real person. That would have never happened based on what you made this character in the beginning with. And like even in the times where it's just like really sad and really depressing and kind of really crappy, allowing that to be there and not shying away from that, and then moving it to a point where you could have a story where they both were kind of complete and became better people for themselves. That's what I really loved about this show.
Yeah, I agree. I like the characters and the story, and that everything just had that real feel to it, that like you said, like it never felt like the characters were behaving in a way that was out of character or unrealistic. Like Sky said, it was, you could see it going multiple different ways because it could go multiple different ways. Everybody's life could go different ways depending on what choices they make and what things happen to them. So you could see lots of different endings that were all going to be realistic based on, yeah, exactly. They're all appropriate. And there were endings you were going to like more than other endings, but none of the endings that I could see happening were going to be endings where I was going to be like, what the heck? Like,
except the fiance one.
Well, I would have been mad, but I could see that happening.
Yeah,
People
it's
that, right?
Yeah.
People make those choices. Broken people make choices that, I'll go with second best, or I'll make do because this is all I deserve or whatever. Like I could see the character that he had become at that point making those choices, deciding that, well, everything else is done and I guess I'll just go with this
Mm-hmm.
sadness. I was glad that they didn't. I was glad that he found his spark again and walked away from that he didn't let her do. She did that manipulative, will you be all right if something happens to me thing? And I was like, oh, come on now. We're not doing that again, are
You
we?
notice he didn't even text back.
Fine.
And
Fine.
then you're like, yes.
Yes. Well, because I was watching something else and they'd just done the like manipulative, try to keep the guy through suicide thing. And I was like, I hate that trope so badly.
Yeah.
So badly. It's such an obnoxious thing. And because I feel like it makes light of suicide and it makes light of people's feelings, and people like don't do that. Don't ever hold suicide over somebody else's head. Like, try to make them do stuff. That trope really bugs me.
About the struggles of everybody's dreams, I actually really liked that. The fact that even the side characters that were writers or poets or photographers or dancers, anybody that you saw that was trying to pursue a dream in various stages, even the son who liked playing guitar and having his band, like everyone had their artistic dreams that they were trying to pursue on some level, and everyone was struggling.
Yeah.
Even like the photographer shop lady, she was trying to figure out if she wanted to travel to Africa. And even when she came back from Africa, like figuring out if she really wanted, even not that she had a ton of struggle, but it was just all very realistic.
Yes.
And even the writer characters, it wasn't, oh, someone got this awesome book deal and now they're rich. Like, there was never a shortcut in the drama of someone, all of a sudden you're successful and yay. Like, it really never, ever did that with even a side character. And I thought that was awesome.
Because even probably you could argue that the most successful character artistically was that one photographer in the second segment. Like, she clearly was relatively renowned and, she was struggling not so much with fame and fortune, but with what does this do to her art, and is her art anymore? And she was struggling. Like, it was just nice to see that concept that there's always something that you struggle with. You never actually have that moment where, okay, now everything is fine and everything is done, and I can just relax now. You have to keep working, and there's always a struggle.
Even the happy little family, there was still growth to be had there. There were still loose ends. The son was over in the States, I think. I mean, there was always...
I think he was at school.
It was all about kind of the journey of life and struggle, but it was inspirational, but not in a very fictitious sense. Like, it felt real, which it was very pretty, but real.
I liked with the son and his mom, his estranged mom, that relationship built slowly. And I liked when he said to her, like, I understand you had to leave to pursue your art because it was something that you needed for you. And I understand it, but I still don't like it. Like, it doesn't mean I forgive you for abandoning me when I was 7. Like, that's not how that works. I can understand why you did what you did. It doesn't mean I like it, and it doesn't mean I forgive you right now. But like, I'll try to be nice, kind of thing. And I thought, like, that's pretty realistic. Like, you don't just have your parent walk back into your life after 10 years and be like, great, you're back.
I think it's kind of interesting because I didn't actually pick up on that. Almost every single person has an artistic struggle, not just like a kind of normal 9-to-5 work job. Like, and I just now kind of like thought of that when you were talking about it. It was like everybody was like photographer or dancer. That's kind of an interesting angle. I wonder if there's something to that.
I guess the guest house guy really didn't have, I mean, he played
For
guitar
him, it was
a little.
the guest house. I think.
Yeah. It's as if it's hospitality was kind of his thing. And I even drew on that sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, when he was considering closing the guest house and all those things. But I would say that's probably the only character, and like the mom or something random, but
but the mom was kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't talk about art with her. That may have been part of what drove her to New York all those years ago too. Could have been some type of artistic endeavor, or love or whatever it was, right? There was something that
Mm-hmm.
she, wasn't just escaping from her family, because she could have escaped and stayed in Korea.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious the writer was very intentional with how many characters they made, either having an artistic job, which usually that was the case, or at least having an artistic dream. But usually it was ultimately their occupation too, so it's kind of interesting. There was always a lot to unpack with like every single character.
It really was.
Even her Korean friend that she would visit often, and her relationships. Her character was very focused on relationships the first segment, and then after that she really wasn't as much. Usually she wanted to pursue her writing, and it was very interesting.
It was interesting. It is nice with that one too, again, that they brought those two writer characters back together. They have like that one night stand in the second segment, I think, or maybe it was the first segment. I can't remember. I think the second one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they have this one night stand, and then in the third segment when he comes back in, she's like, he didn't say anything, he didn't talk to me. Like, I mean, I know we don't have like a close relationship, but like, dude, like, was I that forgettable? Like, what the heck? And then that they didn't make it grow into this, like, they had this magical one night stand. And no, they had a drunken one night stand, and now they're like work friends. They become work friends in the end, but they didn't turn it into a romance, and like they didn't.
Now we're so in love, la la la.
Like, it wasn't everybody, and I kind of like that our leads have that open-ended, like maybe they go on to be friends, like her friend the writer winds up being with her one night stand, or maybe they are fated to be together and they wind up happy and in love, like the couple who have the son find their way back to each other and do have this once in a lifetime love for each other that they rekindle. So it's kind of bookended that way, that it could go either of those things, and either of those things are okay. Look at how happy these people all are in those different endings. So I like that they give you both.
Even if she had just gone on her own, kind of like the photographer lady, she's perfectly happy being by herself pursuing her dreams, and that could be the third option, and it still would work out.
Exactly. So I liked that they gave you all these different happy endings, and then they left the leads open, but it was almost like subconsciously they were saying, but look, there's lots of ways that this could possibly be a happy ending. So we're just going to let you write your own happy ending for this, because maybe your happy ending is that they're friends. Maybe your happy ending is that they're lovers. Maybe your happy ending is that they're like, hey, nice to see you again, and then go their own separate ways.
And all different people through all different types of life have those different endings. It's not that everyone all has the happy family. Like, you can have just the friends. You can be by yourself. Like, it's all valid. It's all good. You don't see that very often. So this is a spoilers episode, but it was pretty much a rave about how much we liked the show episode.
It's very underrated and very not talked about, and I think it's a show that people should give a chance to, and I think more people should be. It kind of just went under the radar, and just nobody started talking about it, and nobody picked it up. So then it was like, but guys, there's this really great little hidden gem here.
I don't know what it would be like to binge, like as far as the whole thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would try, because I really do think they built in the timing a little bit. Not that you have to do one episode every week, of course, but maybe binge each section. Like, go for 4 episodes, give it a week. Go for, and I think that would probably help with, because not that you can't binge it, but I think they built in timing a certain way with that.
Yeah, you would miss a little bit of the kind of nuance of the show if you didn't kind of give yourself a little bit of a break.
So I could totally see binging in 4 episode segments, but I think you do lose a little something if you don't have some of that built-in tension and slow momentum.
So people need to be willing to be okay with slow. Like, they need to be in the headspace that they can deal with that. Like, not a fast-paced, dramatic, like, it's not.
Humorous, like, off-the-wall, crazy, jumping around type thing.
No.
It is not The Last Empress. It is maybe the antithesis of The Last Empress.
And it's not like What's Wrong with Secretary Kim or,
No.
something like that. Like, it's not that kind of quirky, romantic. It's not a rom-com.
No.
It has
It's-
comedic moments.
Yeah.
And it has romantic moments, but that's not what it is.
And it's not super melodramatic. Like, it's like not a Something in the Rain or something where you're just like every second of it you're just like, this is ridiculous. Or like, some character is super charged up. Like, that never happens in this.
Yeah.
So we
enjoy
recommend it.
Very much so.
100%.
Very recommend.
Natalia, when she gets better and is in the headspace, she needs to finish it.
Yes.
Well, I think that's it.
Yeah, go watch.
Go watch.
Good.
Give it a chance.
Yeah.
No big names, I don't think.
Well, what the lead actress is from,
She was in Age of Youth, wasn't she?
she was, but she's also in the, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on that girl group? The Mr. song.
We're just staring at her blankly. Like, hey.
Kara.
Han Sung-yeon. And yeah,
And
I mean, she's been in a few things.
Yeah, I
Last
think
Minute
she's,
Romance and Age of Youth, and
He
she
is
was
going-
Friend in About Time.
He is
oh yeah,
going
he was
to,
in about.
He's going to be in the season 2 of Welcome to Waikiki or whatever that's called.
Oh yeah. So that's been another episode, a very nice episode, even though we're very heartbroken that our fourth comrade is not here. But hopefully she'll be able to rise above the ashes out of her flu, little children sickness, whatever she got. So everybody go onto Twitter and wish her good luck. Maybe
Tell Natalia you love her.
send her some cough drops or something. Also, before we end out, this coming Tuesday, which I think is the 29th, I don't know, date, we are going to be doing a watching party with the movie Train to Busan. We'll have all the information on our Twitter page, but we'll be using Rabbit. How do you describe it? A chat room that you can watch the same thing on, and you can just chat about it with friends. So maybe you haven't been watching Train to Busan because you were scared. We'll all be there to help you through all this craziness.
Yeah, I'm going to mostly be staring at the chat box. It's going to be a good time.
and a good, I think, I don't know how many people, have you seen it, Amanda?
I have. Yep.
Okay. So is Sky the only one who hasn't seen it?
I think so.
Out of us, yeah, probably.
The only person in the whole world who hasn't seen it is I.
Well, there'll be a ton of people that already know what's going on. So if you're really scared, we can all be like, okay, turn away right now. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope that we all see you. You can listen to this podcast in a bunch of different places: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean. We're even on YouTube. We're on various social medias under Certified Nunas, but we really do love Twitter the most. So sorry. Oh yeah, Instagram. That's a Natalia thing. She keeps it up sometimes. So go, friend.
Pinterest sometimes.
Pinterest sometimes.
Sometimes.
I am
Never.
listen. It's really hard getting on Facebook sometimes, so you're not missing much. But also, if you've ever wanted to contact us and you don't do social media, or you want to, I don't know, ask a question that's longer than what you need, we do have an actual Gmail account that you could send an email to. It's certifiednunas@gmail.com. I think that's it. I don't usually do these ending things, so I don't remember what Natalia does. I think that's it. And go watch 12 Nights. Bye, guys.
Bye.